June 10th here, meteorologist Payton Malone. We are watching some pretty active weather across the area and the region this morning with reports of heavy rainfall. We've had many reports of some street flooding now ongoing in parts of the New Orleans metro, mainly out in New Orleans East. And then we've had some ongoing really heavy rainfall down in eastern St. Bernard, parts of Plaquemines Parish. And I was just getting a report in from a viewer down in eastern St. Bernard that they were getting some pretty strong winds. So we do have quite a bit of active weather ongoing across the area. The first thing I want to talk about is our flooding risk this morning, because we do have an ongoing flash flood warning that has been issued for parts of the New Orleans metro. This is going to be mainly out towards from Gentilly going into New Orleans East, and we're continuing to get some development and ongoing street flooding problems. Just looking at our latest information here, you can see there in our box. Let me zoom in here so you can get a closer look at things. You can see there a flash flood warning has been issued. It goes until 12:15. This was issued about 30 minutes ago, and you can see it includes all of New Orleans East. It includes parts of Gentilly, and it does not include City Park and Lakeview, but you're getting quite a bit of heavy rainfall now into the City Park Lakeview area, so could see some street flooding developing in some of those locations. Radar has estimated that some locations have picked up 2 to 3 inches. I'm looking at streetwise flooding maps here from the city of New Orleans, and we're getting quite a few reports of some street flooding in a lot of those typical spots where you're seeing some street flooding. For example, just to name a few, Chef Mentor and Crowder Boulevard, that intersection, Downman and Wells, Francis, Armeo Boulevard and Arbor Drive, you're getting street flooding, and just your really usual spots. Crowder Boulevard and the I-10 Service Road, you're getting some reports of flooding as well. So we have verified that this flash flood warning does have some street flooding with it. So just keep that in mind if you're traveling anywhere from Gentilly into New Orleans East. There's likely going to be some flooded streets, so it's not a good idea to be on the roads. So we're going to continue to watch this because we are watching this big cluster of storms that is off to the southeast of the city of New Orleans. This is going to be out in eastern St. Bernard. You can see there, just this huge area of heavy rainfall extending all the way from Lake Borgne down to the Gulf of Mexico. And this has dumped some very heavy rainfall. I did get a report in from someone down in Port Sulphur. They were reporting that they've picked up nearly 5 inches of rainfall since this morning. And that is certainly a lot of rainfall in a short amount of time. And here's what we're watching right now. I'm going to put this in motion because I want to show you what this this complex of storms is doing. Do you see how it has this? You almost see this feature traveling through the storms. That's an outflow boundary. That's that rain cold air coming out. And as that moves to the north and west towards the metro New Orleans, that will likely help trigger some additional showers and storms. So we are going to have to watch for some street flooding here, not only in New Orleans East and Gentilly, but perhaps across a big part of the metro as this outflow boundary moves in over the next hour or two. So just really keeping an eye on things. Just know that if you do have to be out and about between now and let's say noon, be careful, check the forecast, check the weather, and make sure there's no flooded streets where the locations that you're headed to, because we could start to see additional widespread storms develop closer to New Orleans over the next couple of hours. For our friends on the North Shore, we're getting a new area of storms developing from Folsom down to Covington and Mandeville and Madisonville, so watching for some heavy rain there. It is moving, so we're not seeing any huge flooding problems with that right now, but that is dumping some pretty heavy rain along with some lightning and thunder. This is just one part of what we're watching today. The other feature we're watching is this complex of storms to our north and west. Look at this huge area of storms once you get up towards Shreveport and northern Louisiana. This is all moving south and east. So eventually we're going to have to watch to see how this impacts us later this afternoon and evening. So there's a bunch of different moving parts of this forecast today. And yes, we've got some storms around this morning, but we could have additional storms around later on today into the early evening hours. So we're watching to see what this complex of storms does. This one right in here, because it's going to generally be moving south and east towards the Gulf Coast. One interesting part will be to see what do the storms this morning do to the environment. Do they rob all the energy, and once those storms to our north get here, do they not have anything to work with? That's a possibility, just something we're going to have to watch. But I want to show you Precision Cast. This is some of our high resolution modeling showing those storms around the area this morning, a few of these storms around as we go through the afternoon, and then notice here comes that big complex of storms from the north later afternoon into this evening. We're talking 5, 6, 7, 8 o'clock is when that complex of storms could get here and that could be closer to sunset that we've got some of those stronger storms. So one thing we're watching, the severe weather threat, it is there today. So far, we haven't had widespread problems with severe weather. There has definitely been some strong wind gusts. We've had some reports of water spouts on the lake. That's fairly common with strong storms like this in the early morning hours. But we'll keep an eye on things because we could have some strong wind gusts. We could also have some hail in some of these storms, and can't rule out an isolated tornado or two along with a water spout. So it definitely warrants us paying attention to things as we go through the day. Something else, the heavy rainfall. It's not moving a lot right now, especially this big blob of storms down in Plaquemines and St. Bernard. So street flooding, flash flooding is definitely something that we're going to be watching as well. So just keeping an eye on this rainfall as we go through not only this morning but this afternoon. Just checking in with the Weather Service here, and they're echoing and saying, you know, we're getting reports of some street flooding out in New Orleans East. Certainly don't want to be traveling and driving through flooded roads. You don't know how deep the water is sometimes, and remember down here you can create wakes, and that can push water into homes, can push water into cars, and things similar of that nature. So not a good idea to be traveling in the flooded roadways. But once again, we're continuing to watch heavy showers and storms dumping very heavy rainfall, continuing to see the persistent rainfall out in Gentilly and over into New Orleans East. There's a boundary sitting in here and it's just not moving. So that's why this rain hasn't been moving. I mean, look at this from UNO down through Gentilly, New Orleans East here, just getting hammered. And let's look at some of our 3-hour totals here. This will give you a good idea on how much rain has fallen. You can see there kind of a bullseye. And we're adding to this, we're continuing to add to this. Some of the higher totals, 2 inches, maybe up to an inch in the past hour or so. And down here, that's going to lead to some street flooding, which we do have reports of. So just continue to stay weather aware. It's a very messy setup, meaning it's not as cut and dry as this is when the storms move in, this is when the storms move out. The storms, the chance of storms goes from now through the afternoon, and then we'll still have a chance for storms even into this evening. 7, 8 o'clock, we could still have some storms around. And just looking at the latest data, might even see some storms lingering past 8 o'clock. It's a very tricky forecast with all these ongoing and moving parts, but you definitely want to stay weather aware. Main concerns, flash flooding, of course, down here, but those gusty winds, some hail, and can't rule out an isolated tornado. You can download our app, WWL-TV app. Maybe you're watching us there. Remember, it's got our radar feature. The interactive radar is the best radar feature. There's a couple different ways to look at radars, but the interactive, if you can find that in that top banner on our app, that lets you zoom into your neighborhood. You can even do kind of future radar scans on there, and it's a really useful tool. I do want to mention as well, your reports really help us out, and we get these reports sent to us just like text messages, and we can even respond to your text. And some of you have been sending in reports. Notice you could text 504-529-444. Put that in your text message or your contacts as WWL-TV. You can send text, you can send videos, you can send pictures. Those reports really help us out. We got some in of the water spout. Someone reported earlier they were getting very strong winds over in eastern St. Bernard as those storms blew in, and that report really helped us out as well. And of course, if you're seeing street flooding, send in those reports. Just send in a picture if it's safe to do so. Let us know where you're at, and if you would like us to give you credit, your name, send us that as well. We may use it on air. We may use it, of course, online as well on social media. So a great resource for you to relay what you're seeing out in the field. Once again, you can see there on your screen the number 529-4444, and that really helps us out to see what you're seeing out there in the field and verify what we're seeing on radar. Just to recap really fast, our flash flood warning, it continues for New Orleans East and out towards Gentilly. That goes until 12:15. We continue to see ongoing rain. I do think we're going to start to see additional development in the metro area over the next hour or so, with heavy rain maybe becoming an issue through the noon hour here in the city, which could lead to street flooding. And the reason I think that, you see this outflow, you see this kind of propagation, how it just continues to build right in there. That's an outflow boundary coming out, and as that moves through the New Orleans metro, that could help trigger more showers and storms. And there's not a ton of movement in the rain right now, so that's why we are going to be watching for street flooding along with some strong winds. So that does it. It is just before 10:10 here. Of course, stay tuned with us as we go through the remainder of the day. Everyone, whether you're in the river parishes, whether you're in Laplace, whether you're in the bayou parishes, or the North Shore or South Mississippi, things are not terribly active right now in those locations, but that will likely change some. The worst of it, you can see there, that big blob of storms in eastern St. Bernard and Plaquemines that is trying to propagate closer to the New Orleans metro. And I do think as we get more daytime heating, we will see additional development elsewhere as well. So you definitely want to stay tuned to forecast. Join us on Channel 4 at noon. I will have an update there. And of course, if anything major develops in between now and noon, we will break in on TV. We will break in on our apps, YouTube, WWL Plus. You're streaming us on Roku and things like that. But for now, thanks so much for joining us. I'm meteorologist Payton Malone.